My name's Susan, and this year I'm hitting the big 50. I've got a son, David, who's 30 and works for a TV station. His dad and I split when David was just 2, not because of violence or infidelity, but because of his dad's reckless spending. You see, I've always been sharp about money, always checking prices and making sure I'm getting a deal. But my ex, he'd just buy whatever caught his eye, patience not included.
You get what you pay for, right? If I like it, price does not matter.
He'd argue. And I'd fire back. Don't just assume something's bad because it's cheap. Spending a fortune on something unnecessary is what's truly absurd. Our shopping trips were battlegrounds. The last straw came when he bought a high-class car without discussing it with me, proudly suggesting,
Let's go for a drive.
That's when I knew I couldn't do it anymore. So, I've always been strict with David about money. Last month, David said he wanted to get married and brought his fiancée, Ashley, home. Our place is a modest 2-bedroom rental, far from fancy. But it's been our home since the divorce, and we've got great neighbors. Our family's roots run deep within the bustling life of our apartment community, a tapestry of kind faces and shared stories. When my son was young, neighbors would stay up late at night to take care of him. So the neighbors are not just familiar faces, they are my son's second family. Thus, the thought of leaving this woven network of connections never crossed our minds. The convenience of our location, coupled with the warmth of community ties, made the idea of relocating an alien concept. Her elegant attire told the world that she had lived in a sophisticated social circle. She seemed perplexed at the thought of touching the rusty doorknob of our shabby abode. This was in contrast to my unpretentious welcome, dressed in a worn apron, the uniform of home cooking and hearty conversation. David's jest,
Mom, you're as predictable as ever.
Sparked a light-hearted exchange, my defense wrapped in the practicality that has always guided our lives. I could not decide on the right outfit, and buying something new just didn't sit right with me. His playful rebuke,
It's a special occasion, Mom. A new outfit would have been perfectly fine.
met with my pragmatic retort. But think of the waste. It might end up forgotten in the closet after just one wear. He laughed.
What exactly were you planning to buy? You are saving too much.
We were talking in our usual humorous manner, but Ashley did not smile or laugh during the entire time we were there, and she was very brusque. My heart sank with worry. Had I failed to make a good impression? Upon David's return from sending her off, I voiced my concern. Does she always seem so reserved? He paused, sharing.
Actually, she did say something. Talking to your mom seems more enjoyable than talking to me. It caught me off guard.
Afraid she will peg you as a mama's boy? My words, teasing in nature, sought to lighten the mood, yet his reply,
Surely not, right?
carried a hint of doubt. Ashley's position as a receptionist at the same station where David works, and her lineage, with a father-wielding influence as a producer, set the stage for their meeting. It was during a collaborative project that David's charm and competence caught the producer's eye, leading to an unexpected introduction to Ashley. David, accustomed to navigating adult conversations with ease due to his upbringing among a diverse array of grown-ups, found himself effortlessly drawn into Ashley's world. Her beauty, undeniable, paired with her poise at the reception desk, ensnared David's attention completely, culminating in a relationship that blossomed naturally. A journey of two hearts meeting amidst the backdrop of career and ambition. Before David brought Ashley to our doorstep, they first ventured into the realm of her upbringing, a visit that left David awestruck. The mansion they entered, far removed from the modest homes of television station employees, was a testament to luxury and opulence. David recounted his visit with a mix of awe and anxiety.
Every corner held artifacts of undeniable value. I tread lightly, fearing a misplaced step might lead to ruin.
Ashley's father, a man of pronounced beliefs regarding wealth, imparted his perspective.
You see, David, the true essence of money lies in its circulation, its utility. It's not as if we can accompany it beyond life.
This philosophy, echoing the sentiments of a life once shared with my ex-husband, conjured a whirlwind of emotions within me, blending nostalgia with a tinge of sorrow. When it was revealed that David had earned a scholarship for his education program, Ashley's mother responded with a less than warm response. Her eyebrows knitted in concern, she murmured.
Given the single-parent background,
Her words, laced with a subtle judgment, followed by,
have the loans been cleared? It's imperative for Ashley to avoid any semblance of hardship. She aspires to adopt the role of a homemaker, mirroring my path. It's incumbent upon her partner to secure financial stability, akin to her father.
David felt a sting at her insinuations, a shadow cast over their cordiality. Yet, the path to matrimony remained unaltered, with both David and Ashley advancing towards their shared future. I expressed a wish to accompany them in their quest for the perfect wedding venue, a request that seemed to dampen Ashley's spirits. Her reactions to me were tepid at best, her smiles forced, her engagement in conversation minimal. David, in his light-hearted manner, attempted to bridge the gap, jesting.
A bit of warmth wouldn't hurt, Ash. What is this? A silent protest against future in-laws?
Ashley's retort was chilling.
My relationship is with you, not her. She's essentially a stranger to me.
This stark declaration of boundaries was followed by an ultimatum that caught us off guard.
Who do you value more, me or your mother?
Ashley's possessiveness wasn't a new ordeal for David. Her jealousy had been a constant companion throughout their relationship, quick to flare at the slightest interaction with another woman. David believed marriage might quell these tempests of insecurity, offering her the assurance needed to temper her fears. He assured her, balancing diplomacy with affection.
Both of you hold immense importance in my life. Such questions only sow discord.
Despite his conciliatory efforts, I harbored apprehensions about their future harmony, pondering the delicate balance between love and possessiveness, and the shadows it cast on their impending union. On an ordinary yet bustling workday, ensconced in a flurry of tasks that demanded my undivided attention, I was jolted by the sudden ring of my phone. The voice that greeted me on the other end was none other than Patricia, Ashley's mother, her tone brimming with a mix of formality and urgency. She dove straight into the heart of the matter, discussing the imminent pre-wedding familial gathering, a tradition steeped in anticipation and a tad bit of nervous excitement. While I faintly recalled hashing out potential dates with my son, David, the specifics, including the venue, remained a nebulous cloud in our collective planning. Caught in the throes of my professional responsibilities, I hesitated. But Patricia, with a practiced ease that spoke volumes of her experience in navigating social etiquettes, assured me.
This conversation will be brief. We're contemplating securing an upscale dining establishment for the occasion. Would that align with your expectations?
Her inquiry, polite yet direct, prompted me to inquire about the restaurant in question. I had heard about the restaurant, which had a reputation for poor food despite being upscale. Curiosity piqued, I ventured. May I ask which dining experience we're considering? Patricia responded.
The exclusive course, naturally. It's set at $300 per person.
The figure, stark in its extravagance, sent ripples of disbelief coursing through me. It wasn't just the looming financial implication, it was the dread of investing in an experience that might not even gratify our palates or our expectations. Sensing my reluctance, a subtle yet discernible shift occurred in Patricia's tone. It was a blend of frustration laced with an undercurrent of indignation.
This celebration marks a pivotal chapter in our daughter's life. Surely the grandeur of the occasion warrants such preparations.
Her words, though laced with a hint of reprimand, echoed a sentiment I couldn't outright dismiss. In a bid to dispel the brewing storm, I capitulated, albeit with a tinge of humor to lighten the atmosphere. My apologies. I suppose my frugality got the better of me there, haha. We'll go with the exclusive course. My attempt at humor was met with a brief, albeit telling, cough from Patricia, a prelude to her next point of contention.
I trust you're acquainted with the concept of dressing appropriately for such events.
This question, seemingly innocuous, carried an undercurrent of scrutiny, prompting a moment of introspection about the image I projected. Caught off guard, but ensnared in the demands of my work, I responded almost mechanically. Yes, of course, that won't be an issue. However, my assurance seemed to fall on skeptical ears as Patricia pressed further.
But do you truly grasp the gravity of the situation?
It was a moment of realization for me, a reminder of the delicate dance of social expectations and familial obligations. Attempting to navigate the precarious balance between professional duties and personal commitments, I proposed a compromise. I'm terribly sorry, but might we continue this conversation at a later time? I'm currently swamped with work. Yet, this olive branch did little to quell Patricia's mounting irritation. Her retort was swift and laced with a palpable disdain.
What? Work? I presume it's merely a menial part-time endeavor on your part. We are engaged in a discussion of far greater significance.
Her assumptions, uninvited and unwarranted, paved the way for a soliloquy that was as much a critique as it was a reflection of her concerns.
Let's be unequivocally clear. Any faux pas on your part not only tarnishes your reputation but also casts a shadow over Ashley and our family. Rumors of your neglect towards your son's educational fund and your choice of attire at a formal introduction have not gone unnoticed. Such lapses, even for a single parent, breach the bounds of decorum.
As I endeavored to lend an ear to her grievances, my focus was incessantly divided by the relentless demands of my professional life, a fact that did little to assuage Patricia's growing exasperation. Patricia's accusation was as harsh as it was unexpected, her words laced with a biting edge that seemed to cut through the air between us.
You know, you really should pay more attention when people are speaking to you. Is that why your husband decided to leave?
She declared, her voice heavy with judgment and an unspoken criticism that seemed to hang heavily in the room. The accusation was not just unwarranted. It was a stark reminder of the complex web of misunderstandings and preconceived notions that often marred familial relationships, especially those tinged with the dynamics of in-laws and extended family members. Her tirade didn't stop there. It seemed the dam had broken, releasing a flood of grievances she had apparently been holding back.
Honestly, it's beyond me why my husband and daughter would choose someone from a single-parent background as their life partner. Facing our relatives now feels like an insurmountable task,
she continued, her words dripping with disdain and a disappointment that felt almost tangible. The implication that my background somehow made me a less suitable partner for her child was not only hurtful, but also steeped in a kind of prejudice that I had hoped we had moved past as a society.
And if that's the case, it would have been preferable if you had expressed your objections to their relationship right from the start. Isn't that just basic decency?
Patricia railed on. Her ability to freely express her displeasure without regard for the feelings of others was both astonishing and deeply upsetting. Her barrage of unfounded accusations left me reeling, struggling to find a foothold in a conversation that felt more like a unilateral condemnation than a dialogue. Ashley's behavior had previously given me pause, but Patricia's attitude clarified that the apple didn't fall far from the tree. As I stood there, silent and shell-shocked by the vitriol being directed at me, Patricia seemed to take my silence as affirmation of her misguided beliefs.
See, you're not even listening. Forget it.
She snapped, ending the call with a click that felt like the slamming of a door on any hope of reconciliation. In the days leading up to the dinner, I found myself consumed by a whirlwind of professional obligations. The impending event looming in the back of my mind like a storm on the horizon. When the day finally arrived, I chose to wear a suit that had seen me through David's school ceremonies. Though slightly dated, the suit held sentimental value, a testament to significant milestones in my son's life. David's teasing remark,
That again.
was met with my light-hearted response. It would be a waste not to wear it. It's almost like a lucky charm, in a way. Arriving at the restaurant alone, I was immediately met with the sight of Patricia and Ashley, their attire speaking volumes of their expectations for the evening. Their barely concealed disdain at my choice of clothing was evident as they exchanged looks and sighed audibly, a silent communication that spoke louder than words. My attempt at civility, "Good evening," was met with cold indifference as they turned and entered the restaurant, leaving me in their metaphorical dust. It was a moment that underscored the chasm between us, a divide that seemed to grow wider with every interaction. I shrugged and the staff took me into a private room where they were already seated. Patricia and Ashley threw me a cold glare. The room, with only 4 chairs, seemed to echo the exclusion I felt, a physical manifestation of the emotional distance that had been established. As I stood there, the absurdity of the situation became painfully clear when Ashley, with a smirk, suggested,
Oh dear, it seems there's no seat for you. Maybe you should just go home. We'll tell your husband everything went well.
The timing couldn't have been more cinematic as Brian and David entered, Brian's confusion at the unfolding scene mirroring my own. His question,
What's this about telling someone to go home?
was a lifeline in the murky waters of familial discord. As Patricia and Ashley remained silent, I found my voice, explaining the situation not just for Brian, but perhaps for myself as well. It appears there's no seat for me, so I was told to leave. Brian, Ashley's father, found himself at a loss for words as he attempted to process the situation, his initial confusion quickly morphing into visible shock.
What in the world?
He started, his voice trailing off as his eyes met mine, and his complexion drained of color, a telltale sign of his dawning realization and ensuing panic. His reaction, marked by a mix of bewilderment and urgency,
Oh, what?
underscored the gravity of the misunderstanding that had unfolded before him. Observing my face more closely, his confusion gave way to outrage as he turned towards his wife and daughter, his voice rising in a crescendo of disbelief and anger.
Did you two really say such disrespectful things?
He bellowed, his fury palpable, echoing through the room like a thunderclap. In a swift motion, fueled by a mix of embarrassment and a desperate attempt at damage control, he coaxed Patricia and Ashley to their feet. Placing his hands firmly on their heads, he pushed them into a bow, an exaggerated, almost theatrical gesture of apology.
Such disrespect was not our intention, Vice President.
He exclaimed, his voice laced with a sincerity that bordered on desperation. Ashley, caught completely off guard by her father's sudden and forceful intervention, could only muster confused.
Vice President?
The question hung in the air, a testament to her obliviousness to the gravity of their mistake. Brian, with a sense of urgency, pressed down again, his actions a silent plea for forgiveness as he whispered sharply,
She is the vice president of Westfield Industries we're talking about.
The revelation seemed to strike Ashley with the force of a revelation, her subsequent,
The major entertainment company.
revealing her newfound understanding of the precariousness of their position. Brian's admonition, delivered in a hushed, urgent tone,
Exactly. Our livelihood practically depends on their goodwill. Don't upset her.
served as a stark reminder of the delicate balance of professional and personal relationships. He then turned back to me, his gaze filled with an earnest plea for forgiveness.
I am profoundly sorry. We'll prepare your seat immediately. Or rather, would you prefer to take my seat?
He offered, proposing the ultimate gesture of respect and apology by offering his own place at the table. My response, accompanied by a wry smile, sought to diffuse the tension. No, thank you. I'd probably be too tense to appreciate the exquisite cuisine from such a prominent position. This attempt at lightheartedness did little to alleviate the palpable sense of embarrassment that enveloped Patricia, who seemed unable to even lift her gaze to meet mine. Her entire demeanor spoke volumes of her acute discomfort and fear, a silent acknowledgement of the severity of their misstep. Brian's frustration with Patricia was evident as he pressed her head down further, his voice a mix of disappointment and admonition.
Now, you apologize as well. What a mess you've made.
He scolded. Patricia's reply, a whisper so faint it was barely audible,
I'm so sorry.
conveyed the depth of her remorse, albeit in a manner that barely breached the heavy silence of the room. Seizing the moment, I couldn't resist injecting a note of sarcasm into the proceedings. Well, it's been quite enlightening to see what society thinks of single-parent families. This barb, intended to underscore the absurdity and unfairness of their preconceived notions, seemed to catch Patricia off guard, her response a frantic scramble for words.
We never meant.
her voice rising in a futile attempt at explanation. Brian, ever the mediator, stepped in quickly, his plea for understanding underscored by a bow so deep it seemed he might touch the floor with his forehead.
Please forgive the rudeness of my family. I will ensure they understand the severity of their actions.
He promised, his gesture one of profound apology and a commitment to rectify the situation. Patricia, following his lead, bowed even lower, her posture nearing that of full prostration. A physical manifestation of their desire for forgiveness and the lengths to which they were willing to go to secure it. In the midst of a tense and charged atmosphere, Ashley, still visibly struggling to wrap her head around the unexpected turn of events, voiced her disbelief with a mix of confusion and skepticism.
Wait just a minute, this can't possibly be true, can it? A case of mistaken identity, perhaps? If he really were the son of such a prominent figure, surely the whole company would be abuzz with the news.
Her protest, laced with incredulity, echoed the room's growing tension, a stark contrast to David's calm and collected demeanor as he sought to clarify the situation.
Actually, I've deliberately kept quiet about my mom's position. The last thing I wanted was for my colleagues to think I landed my job through nepotism, so it makes sense that you wouldn't have heard anything.
He explained, his voice steady, aiming to bridge the gap of misunderstanding that had formed between them. However, Ashley's skepticism didn't wane. Her features twisted into a mask of doubt as she pressed on, challenging David's narrative.
But what about the scholarship? You've always said you attended college thanks to a scholarship, attributing it to your single-parent upbringing and financial constraints. Considering your mother doesn't exactly fit the profile of wealth, I naturally assumed.
Her voice trailed off, leaving an uncomfortable silence in its wake. Brian, caught between his daughter's misconceptions and the unfolding drama, stepped in with a sense of urgency, his voice rising in a mixture of frustration and disbelief.
Ashley, not this again with your unfounded prejudices. How could you utter such disrespectful assumptions?
His rebuke was sharp, a desperate attempt to steer his daughter away from her misguided judgments. David's reaction was a mix of resignation and mild amusement at the absurdity of the situation. With a nonchalant shrug, he addressed Ashley's unfounded conclusions.
That was merely my preference to rely on my own abilities rather than my family's status. It's disheartening to realize you viewed it through such a distorted lens.
His words, heavy with disappointment, underscored the deep chasm of misunderstanding that had developed between him and his fiancée. David had always been fiercely independent, frequently expressing his determination to stand on his own 2 feet and provide a better life for his mother.
I'll make it on my own and ensure you never have to worry again.
He often declared, a testament to his strong will and self-reliance. Despite his mother's significant professional achievements, David's ethos of self-sufficiency remained unwavering, a fact Ashley seemed to have misunderstood entirely. Flustered and defensive, Ashley attempted to justify her perspective with a flawed rationale.
But isn't it normal to assume so? I thought I was doing you a favor by marrying you, lifting you out of your supposed misfortune.
Her words, intended to cast herself in a charitable light, only served to deepen the misunderstanding and strain their relationship further. David, momentarily speechless, could only stare in disbelief at the revelation of Ashley's true feelings.
From what perspective exactly do you view this situation? Do you fancy yourself a savior or guardian angel? My life is far from the dire picture you've painted. And what's with this attitude of marrying me off?
His incredulous response highlighted the absurdity of Ashley's assumptions, prompting a moment of introspection and a questioning of their compatibility. Brian, ever the peacemaker, attempted to diffuse the escalating tension with words of reassurance and support.
No, David. My apologies for any offense. I've always regarded you as a capable and independent individual, which is why I was supportive of your union with Ashley.
Despite his efforts to smooth over the ruffled feathers, the damage inflicted by Ashley's words proved difficult to mend. As the evening wore on, the gulf of misunderstanding between David and Ashley seemed insurmountable. David, visibly disheartened by Ashley's stance, suggested a retreat.
Let's head home, Mom.
His proposal, a tacit acknowledgement of the evening's futility, was met with agreement. Indeed, staying any longer would only sour the taste of the meal even further. I concurred, my own disappointment mirroring David's as we prepared to depart. In a final, desperate bid to salvage the situation, Brian and Patricia blocked our path, their pleas tinged with urgency.
Please, don't leave us like this.
Patricia's voice cracked with emotion, a stark contrast to the evening's earlier hostilities. Faced with their blockade, I drew upon my inner strength, my voice firm and authoritative. It was you who first suggested we leave. Now, please step aside. My command, imbued with the resolve and dignity of my position, left no room for further protest. Realizing their efforts were in vain, Brian and Patricia resigned themselves to our departure. Their actions, the silent admission of their mistake, and the complexities of familial dynamics laid bare by the evening's events. Ashley, with a mixture of frustration and desperation in her eyes, stood up abruptly, her voice resonating with a newfound strength as she turned towards her parents.
Seriously, Mom and Dad? Can't you see we need to pull ourselves together?
Her father, Brian, a man usually composed, now let his temper flare as he locked eyes with his daughter. His voice, normally calm and controlled, boomed across the room.
Do you have any idea who's responsible for this turmoil? It's because of your actions that our once peaceful home is now a battleground of chaos.
Patricia, her mother, seemed to shrink under the weight of the accusation, her voice trembling as she sought to deflect any blame from herself.
I really didn't think it was such a big deal. It was Ashley who kept saying she couldn't get along with her mother-in-law, so I thought I was just lending a helping hand.
Ashley, her patience wearing thin, shot back with a fierce intensity.
What are you even saying? Weren't you the one who always complained about being a single mother, saying it was no good? You were the one insisting we should sever ties with the mother-in-law as soon as possible.
This exchange of blame quickly devolved into a deeply embarrassing and futile quarrel, each party too entrenched in their perspective to see the other's point of view. Observing this sad display, I felt compelled to interject as I prepared to leave. Ashley, before I go, I want to share with you the secret behind my rise to the position of vice president. Ashley, taken aback by my sudden interjection, turned her gaze towards me, her confusion evident. The key lies in being mindful of expenses. I never indulge in reckless spending. I carefully select only what is essential and make it a point to utilize it fully. This approach, this discipline in managing one's finances, is the very foundation of a sustainable lifestyle. Don't you think it's time you considered adopting a similar mindset? Ashley's reaction was a mix of contemplation and sorrow as she bit her lip, seemingly overwhelmed by the weight of her situation, and collapsed onto the floor in a quiet gesture of defeat. As my son David and I left the chaotic scene of the family feud behind us, exiting the upscale restaurant, a palpable sense of resolution filled the air. The engagement between David and Ashley, once a symbol of their union, was eventually dissolved, marking the end of what could have been a beautiful journey together. What was perhaps more surprising was how quickly the news of the altercation at the restaurant spread within the company, becoming a topic of much discussion. My potential intervention became unnecessary as our show's lead actors swiftly took measures to ensure Ashley's father, Brian, was kept out of any future projects. This decision led to a significant downturn in Brian's career, effectively derailing his previously unobstructed path to success. He was relegated to a position far removed from the limelight, overseeing a warehouse for stage props, a stark contrast to his former aspirations. His downfall was, in part, fueled by his notorious reputation for arrogance, a trait that had long alienated him from his peers. Ironically, my involvement, or the lack thereof, was merely a convenient excuse used to justify his exclusion. Moreover, the once grand mansion that the family took pride in was now listed for sale, a silent testament to their precipitous fall from grace. Whispered rumors hinted at a labyrinth of debt hidden beneath their opulent lifestyle, debts that were temporarily staved off through their connections within the TV industry. However, when the tides turned, they found themselves unable to ward off the inevitable, resulting in the loss of their home. Ashley, whose employment as a receptionist was a direct result of her father's influence, found herself without a job almost as swiftly as she had gotten it. With no significant skills to fall back on, she floundered in the job market, her brief stints in temporary positions always ending in dismissal. Financial instability became a constant companion, adding to her growing list of woes. Her mother, too, faced a similar plight. Unable to secure employment, she resorted to menial piecework from the confines of their home. Now, the family resides in a modest apartment, a shadow of their former selves, nestled near the warehouse where Brian now works. David, my beloved son, has unwittingly become quite the celebrity within our company's entertainment circle. Affectionately and somewhat teasingly referred to as Prince by our roster of comedians and performers. This moniker, while amusing, has left him somewhat bewildered, finding himself at the center of an unexpected spotlight. Despite this, David's steadfast approach to his work, characterized by a blend of humility and an unwavering commitment, has not gone unnoticed. His ability to navigate the complexities of our business without relying on the prestige his nickname might afford him has earned him accolades from all corners of our organization. It's heartening to see him maintain such positive relationships with both staff and entertainers, a clear indication of the mutual respect they share. Reflecting on the past, particularly the times when we had to soldier on in the absence of his father, I am filled with a sense of pride. The decision to raise David in a manner that eschewed self-pity in favor of resilience and discipline was not an easy one, but it has proven to be immensely rewarding. Our casual conversations often veer into the future, with David once remarking, somewhat philosophically,
I guess marriage is off the table for me for a while.
This offhand comment spurred a moment of light-hearted banter between us, where I playfully suggested, "Then I guess I'll be getting married before you." His reaction, a mix of surprise and incredulity, was priceless.
Huh?
He exclaimed, clearly not expecting my jest to contain a kernel of truth. Indeed, unbeknownst to many, I have been in a loving relationship with a wonderful man for the past 5 years. The plan to have our wedding ceremonies together, David and I, was a dream I cherished dearly. This shared journey in search of the perfect wedding venue was not just a mother supporting her son, but a journey of shared futures and intertwined fates. David's puzzled reaction to our planned dual ceremony
Why together?
unveiled the practicality behind our decision. I thought it might be more economical as a bundle. Plus, it's an efficient way to manage travel expenses for the relatives, and they could enjoy attending both receptions. I explained, hoping to infuse a bit of practical wisdom into our unique situation. David's laughter in response, acknowledging the thriftiness he inherited from me, warmed my heart.
I guess my frugality does come from you, Mom.
He joked, his laughter a testament to the bond we share. His subsequent declaration, filled with a surprising burst of enthusiasm,
All right then, I'll start looking for a partner for you right away.
left me both amused and touched. His determination, though light-hearted, held a promise of hope and excitement for what the future might hold. As I pondered his words, I found myself eagerly anticipating the adventures that lay ahead. The thought of David finding a partner who could appreciate our family's unique blend of humor and pragmatism was a comforting one. It's in these moments of shared laughter and plans for the future that I am reminded of the enduring strength and love that binds us together. I couldn't help but hope that his future spouse would appreciate our unique sense of humor.